Hey everyone, I'm so glad you're here. Please like and subscribe to the channel to give me more motivation to tell more interesting stories. Now let's begin. You trudge up the walkway holding your famous sage and caramelized onion stuffing. The Tupperware lid keeps popping off, and the foil you wrapped around it is doing nothing to contain the buttery aroma sneaking through the seams. You can already see your mom peering through the front window, arms crossed, mouth flat, wearing the same look she gave you when you brought home a C in algebra. That was 2 decades ago, but some expressions never die. The front door swings open before you can even knock. You're late, she says, and not in a joking way. It's 12:04. Thanksgiving dinner was scheduled for 1. Inside, everything smells of cinnamon and disapproval. The dining table is set like it's Versailles, complete with wine glasses no one knows how to use correctly, and name cards in cursive your mom clearly printed with her new calligraphy pen. The turkey rests like a sunbathing monarch surrounded by sides that all feel a little too overthought. Put your dish in the kitchen, she waves vaguely, already walking away. No, hi, no, happy Thanksgiving, just that brisk efficiency that made you allergic to family functions after you turned 21. In the living room, your sister is laughing too loudly at something her boyfriend said. He's the guy with perfect teeth and a career in investment banking, whatever that really means. You walk in and offer a hello. He nods, then launches into a story about how he closed some $3 million deal with a client who totally didn't understand derivatives. Your mom cuts in with, "Did you hear Trevor just got promoted again? What about you?" Her eyes slide to you with a glance that could refrigerate gravy. You shrug. Busy week. Had 3 major service calls. A rooftop unit in downtown collapsed from rust. Replaced the whole thing. There's a long pause. "Ah," she says, like you just described collecting bottle caps. "Still working on those air thingies." "Yes, Mom, air conditioning units, not cave paintings." The table fills with the usual suspects. Relatives who pretend to forget your name even though they've known you since diapers. Kids staring at screens. Your aunt who once called you good, with tools like a mechanic, but for rich people's homes. You take a seat, and that's when it hits. Actually, your mom chirps. "Would you mind sitting at the little table? We're short a chair, and the kids love you." You glance toward the kids' table. It's covered in Marvel placemats and plastic cutlery. Your niece, who you've helped with math homework for years, is already scooting over to make space. She's wearing a Stanford hoodie. Funny considering whose bank account is paying her tuition. Sure, you say. You sit because what else can you do? 'Cause a scene, this isn't the Roman Senate. By the time the cranberry sauce lands on your plate, Trevor is deep in a story about ski lodges and tax shelters. Your fork feels heavier than usual. And just then your mom walks by and loud enough for everyone says, "Don't worry about the temperature in here. We've got our own AC technician on standby." Everyone laughs, including your niece. And you sit there and smile because what else is there to do when the people who raised you still think the word trade means failure in a tie? Here's a quick fun fact. During the 1800s in the U.S., being a skilled tradesman was actually considered a badge of honor. Blacksmiths, coopers, carpenters, they were the backbone of community infrastructure. But somewhere along the line, the American dream got gentrified by corner offices and stock portfolios. Historians still argue whether the real shift happened during the post-Wubby-Woo boom or when college degrees became marketing tools instead of educational ones. Oh, and here's a little quirky tidbit for the table. In ancient Egypt, there were HVAC systems of sorts, passive cooling, using wet reeds and airflow engineering. Bet Trevor doesn't know that one. But you stay quiet. because your story's not done, and this isn't your moment yet. You stay at the kids' table, balancing dignity with a wobbly chair leg and the awkward sound of utensils clinking against plastic. The children chatter around you, oblivious to the grown-up games of hierarchy being played 3 feet away. It's ironic. The kid next to you is holding a chicken nugget like it's Excalibur, and you're the one being treated like a child. You stab a piece of sweet potato and nod politely as your niece launches into a detailed explanation of her Econ 101 class. She talks about supply and demand curves like they're the newest iPhone feature. You helped pay for that class. Every semester, you quietly routed money from your business profits, your long summer shifts in crawl spaces and attics, to her college fund. Because family right. She says, "Uncle, it's so weird that you do AC stuff. Like, isn't it super easy?" She grins, chewing with her mouth open. "I mean, that's what Dad says." You nod slowly. "Oh yeah, just plug and play, you say. It's basically adult Lego." Your cousin snorts root beer through his nose, laughing. You don't even have the energy to correct them. Not about how modern HVAC systems involve thermodynamics, pressure ratios, duct design, airflow analytics, or even code compliance. You installed a VRV system last week, so advanced it made a Silicon Valley client cry with joy. Meanwhile, at the big table, Trevor's explaining what a 401k is like. He invented it. Your mom's nodding along like she's watching a TED Talk. Then it happens. Your mom calls for everyone's attention to give a short Thanksgiving toast. The usual themes: gratefulness, family, cranberry sauce. Then, with a soft chuckle, she says, "And to Trevor for working so hard to build a real future. Not everyone can say that, right?" She gestures toward you. Light laughter again. You're a punchline in your own house. You try not to react, but your stomach's boiling beneath your mashed potatoes. You glance down at your plate. Even the gravy looks like it's frowning at you. This is the part where you think about walking out, but you don't. Not yet. You just smile and pretend that being reduced to a utility is somehow flattering. But your fingers grip the edge of the table just a bit tighter. Mainstream fact time during the Industrial Revolution. Vocational skills were at the forefront of societal progress. Plumbing, wiring, heating, and cooling transformed modern life. Without those innovations, cities would have rotted under their own weight. Literally. Historians still argue whether we undervalue trade work today because of economic elitism or because parents fear manual labor equals struggle. Maybe it's both. Or maybe it's because people forget that comfort has a price and someone like you pays it in sweat. Meanwhile, a quirky fun tidbit. There's a town in Finland where HVAC technicians are held in such high regard that there's a bronze plaque honoring the first person to install geothermal heating in the community. Guess who doesn't have a plaque, Trevor? You look around and think about how strange it is, this little invisible caste system built inside a family gathering. The way certain people get praised for wearing nice suits while others get mocked for carrying toolboxes. When dessert rolls around apple pie with a too thick crust, your mom doesn't ask if you want any. She says, "I didn't think you'd be staying this long, but I suppose you're used to long shifts." This time no one laughs. The silence is louder than any insult. You rise from the kiddie chair slowly. Your niece looks up and says, "Where you going?" You don't answer. You just walk to the kitchen, grab your dish untouched, and turn back to see your mother raise an eyebrow. "Leaving already?" she asks as if she's surprised. You nod. "Yeah," you say. "Just remembered I'm needed somewhere." As you walk toward the front door, stuffing in one hand, dignity in the other, Trevor mutters, "At least somebody's working today." You pause at the door. You could say something. You could roast him so hard he'd feel it through tax season. Instead, you turn the knob, step out into the cold, and leave the warmth behind. The worst part is it wasn't even that warm. You get in your truck, shut the door, and sit there for a second, hands on the wheel, engine off. The foil over your stuffing crinkles in the passenger seat like it's sighing in agreement. The silence in the cab is thick, the kind that settles in your bones and makes your chest feel too tight. You can still hear Trevor's smug tone, your mom's hollow chuckles, your niece's casual mockery. It isn't just about tonight. It's never just one night. This has been building for years, like pressure inside a duct with nowhere to go. Your entire life has been a balancing act between doing what you're good at and apologizing for it in the presence of people who think success is only measured in desk chairs and business cards. As you drive, your phone buzzes. You glance over. It's a transfer notification, your scheduled monthly deposit to your niece's college fund. You set it up the day she got accepted to Stanford. You didn't tell anyone. You just did it. Because family. Because back then, you still believed in family. You pull into a gas station, the neon lights washing your windshield in pale green. The smell of engine grease and old hot dogs wafts through the cracked window. You open the banking app. The screen lights your face. The transfer is scheduled for midnight tonight, $1,000, enough for textbooks rent, maybe even that extra class in economic theory she liked bragging about. You stare at the screen for a long moment. Your thumb hovers, your heart pounds, and then click, cancel transfer. A single swipe. That's all it takes. A silent, invisible act of rebellion. There's no confetti, no alarm, no flash of justice, just a little pop-up confirmation, transfer, successfully canceled. It's petty, it's vengeful. It's also the first time in a long time that you've chosen you. You lean back in the seat and let out a breath that feels like it's been sitting in your lungs since 2015. The truck hums softly as if approving your decision. And you think about the years you spent defending your work, about the middle school science fair where you built a working miniature HVAC system, and your mom said, "That's cute, but maybe next year you can build a robot." About trade school when she stopped telling her friends where you were going, about the first time she said, "Well, at least you're not flipping burgers." Mainstream HVAC technicians are part of an industry worth over $130 billion in the U.S. alone. The average emergency repair can cost more than a family vacation. You've saved marriages, saved businesses, saved entire weddings by showing up when a venue's air died in August. Historians still argue whether blue-collar stigma began with classist propaganda or educational bias. But one thing's clear, respect isn't about earnings. It's about acknowledgement. And here's a quirky tidbit. When the first air conditioning system was installed in 1902 by Willis Carrier, it wasn't for people. It was to control humidity for a printing company. Comfort came second, just like you at dinner tonight. You pull back onto the road. The night air's crisp. You roll down your window halfway. Cold wind rushes in and you let it. No seat warmer, no thermostat, just the raw bite of air on your skin. You think about what it means to be just something. Just an AC tech. Just a tradesman. Just a guy who doesn't sit behind a desk. They use just like it shrinks you. But the truth is, you've been building a life with your hands while they build castles on clouds and call it success. The road stretches in front of you long and empty. You take the scenic route home not because you need the view, but because tonight you need time. Time to let go of the version of family you once hoped for. Your phone buzzes again. A message from your niece. "Thanks again for paying for everything, Uncle. Love you." You don't respond. Not yet. You don't sleep much that night. just toss around on sheets that feel too tight, like they're wrapping you in second guesses. Around 3 a.m., you get up and sit at the kitchen table, lights off, nursing a lukewarm cup of instant coffee that somehow tastes exactly like the disappointment still bubbling inside you. You open your laptop, not for emails or invoices, just out of habit. The screen glows in the darkness, showing your business dashboard. 14 clients scheduled for next week. 2 new referrals. 1 big contract pending with a high-end real estate firm that doesn't care where you went to school, just that you keep their luxury condos cool in July. And still, your mother made you feel like a third-tier guest at your own family's dinner. You flip through photos on your phone, next old ones. Your niece at age 10, holding up a certificate you helped her print out for a science fair. You had walked her through the basic physics of heat exchange. She won 3rd place. The caption you added back then, "She's going to change the world someday." You used to believe it. You really did. Now you're not so sure the world she's changing is one you want to be part of. It wasn't just about the toast. It was about being treated like the spare part in a machine you helped build. Like you're supposed to be grateful for the crumbs just because your hands are dirty. The next morning, you skip breakfast and head out early. You've got a rooftop unit to check in the city. It's freezing outside. Your truck groans as it starts, but you pat the dashboard like an old dog. You and me both, buddy. By 9:03 a.m., you're 3 stories up, prying open a weathered condenser unit with fingers numb from the wind. It's the kind of quiet you love. No shallow small talk, no judging glances, no hierarchy. Just you, the hum of machinery, and the satisfying clink of a socket wrench finding home. You breathe deeply. Even up here, above all the chaos, you still smell the faint bitterness of Thanksgiving. Midway through the job, you glance at your phone. Your sister's calling. You let it ring, then your mom, then a text. "Why are you being childish? Don't punish your niece. She didn't do anything." You almost reply. Almost. But instead you pocket the phone and go back to checking refrigerant levels. Mainstream fact. Refrigerant leaks are one of the top reasons for AC failure. They can cost homeowners thousands, especially when caught late. Most people don't know how their comfort is maintained until it disappears, kind of like respect. Historians still argue whether societal status began to override communal value during the industrial age or only in post-capitalist societies. What's certain is somewhere along the line, doing essential became synonymous with being invisible. Quirky fact, the ancient Romans had central heating systems called hypocausts under their bathhouses. Technicians, slaves back then, kept them running so senators could relax in warmth. The system changed. The dynamic didn't. Your phone buzzes again. This time it's your niece. "Hey, I overheard what Grandma said at dinner. I didn't mean to laugh. It just felt awkward. I didn't know what to do." You stare at that message longer than you want to admit, but again no reply. Later that day, you stop by the warehouse to restock. A young apprentice, Brian, is there sweeping up. Kids barely 20, eager, always asking questions. You toss him a water bottle and ask how his training's going. "Great," he says, "though my mom keeps telling me to shoot higher, like this isn't enough." You nod, offering a faint smile. Tell her comfort is a billion-dollar industry and that without us, her heating goes out by Christmas. He laughs. It's an honest one. You envy that. On the way home, you pass your sister's house. For a second, you consider stopping in, just to talk, just to explain. But instead, you keep driving. Because sometimes distance is the only boundary that works. You get home just before sunset, the sky bleeding orange behind the roof lines, painting everything in a warm light you don't feel. You park the truck, but don't go inside right away. Instead, you lean against the hood arms crossed, watching the world settle into another quiet evening. And your mind drifts right back to the beginning, back to high school, where college brochures were handed out like candy, and trade school pamphlets were buried under guidance counselor sighs. You still remember Mr. Clancy, who raised an eyebrow when you said you liked taking apart your dad's broken heater to see how it worked. Maybe aim higher, he'd said. You've got the grades. But higher never meant better, just different. Different uniforms, different buildings, different people pretending they had it all figured out. And your mom. She bought into it hard. We didn't come this far so you could fix things for a living, she once said, after you showed her your acceptance letter to the HVAC certification program. You wanted to argue back then, wanted to tell her about the science, the demand, the dignity in it. But instead you just nodded. And ever since you've been living with the sound of her disappointment echoing louder than the compressor fans you work with. Funny thing is, when the central air at her house failed last winter, she called you, not Trevor. And when you fixed it in below freezing wind with a busted ladder and no thanks, you told yourself it didn't matter, because family. Turns out because family is the easiest way to trap yourself in emotional debt. You go inside and make a frozen dinner, nothing fancy, but warm, filling, reliable, like the work you do. You eat in silence while your phone buzzes on the counter like a wasp trying to sting its way back in. Your sister's called 5 times today, left a voicemail you haven't played. You know what she'll say before you even hear it. Your niece texted again too. I really didn't mean it like that. Grandma is just grandma. You get it. You do, but excuses don't patch leaks and apologies don't reverse erosion. You wash your plate dry, it put it away. Simple, repetitive action. Like tightening a valve. Like checking pressure gauges. Later, you sit at your desk and look through old receipts. Thousands of dollars across 3 semesters. Quiet payments no one asked for, but everyone accepted. Not a single thank you card. Just a kind of assumed generosity, like your love had a debit card attached. Mainstream fact: over 60% of skilled trade workers report feeling disrespected by white-collar counterparts, even though trades are some of the most essential services in society. Historians still argue whether this social bias is the product of class insecurity or just centuries of romanticizing mental labor over physical contribution. Quirky tidbit for your troubles. In 17th century France, chimney sweeps were considered symbols of good luck, so much so that brides would request a sweep's touch before weddings. Somewhere along the way, society went from worshiping the trades to pitying them. You scroll through your phone's contacts. Your thumb hovers over your niece's name. You think about all the things you could say about what it's like to crawl through insulation in 105-degree attics or fix a system at 3 a.m. while someone else sleeps soundly above you. You think about your hands scarred, calloused, real. No handshake needed. They speak for themselves. Instead of texting her, you type out a note in your drafts. Respect isn't something you earn with a GPA. It's something you give because you understand what someone sacrifices. One day you'll get it, and if not, you'll sweat for it. You close the app. You don't send it. Some lessons have to arrive like cold air in a broken room suddenly and with clarity. You lie down early, not because you're tired, but because you've carried this weight long enough. Outside the temperature drops, but for the first time in a long time, it doesn't bother you. The next morning arrives with that familiar hum, your truck engine, the clank of your tool bag hitting the floorboard, the muffled static of a talk radio station you never quite change. It's routine, but it's also peace. Your first stop is a residential emergency. A family's AC unit gave out overnight. Kids are bundled in blankets. The mom greets you, with wide, hopeful eyes. "You're a lifesaver," she says before you even touch a wrench. You smile. "Let's get some air moving again." You dive into the work. The unit's old wires corroded like bad memories. You fix it in less than an hour. When the warm air starts flowing, the kids cheer, and the mom hands you a thermos of coffee. "Stay warm out there," she says. You nod. Always do. By lunch, you're on to your next job, a rooftop condenser install in a swanky part of town. The building manager meets you in a suit 3 times more expensive than your entire toolkit and says, "You're the guy we were told could make the whole system purr." You don't bother telling him that you designed the schematic he's holding, that you saved the developer tens of thousands last year with one pressure calculation he didn't even understand. You just say, "I'll take care of it." Halfway through the job, your phone buzzes. Subject urgent, it's from your mom. You sigh and click. It's short. "The HOA clubhouse's AC is out. Total failure. They want you. Can you go today?" You almost laugh. Of course. Now when it matters, you're not just anything. Now you're needed. You check your calendar. You could make time, but should you? You think about it, then shrug. You drive over around 3 p.m. It's the same clubhouse where your mom plays canasta and brags about her kids. You've never been invited to a game, never asked to join. But today they need the tech. When you arrive, the clubhouse manager's waiting with an urgent look. "We're hosting a community dinner tonight," she says. "No air. We need you." You nod, step inside, and the heat hits you like a slap, stuffy, stale, and oppressive. You set to work. The whole system's clogged, filters uncleaned, coils choked with dust. Whoever they had maintaining it before either didn't care or didn't know what they were doing. You've seen this before. In 3 hours, it's running like new. Cool air fills the clubhouse, blowing out the staleness like a long sigh. You write the invoice on your phone. Standard rate, then you pause. You adjust it down by 10%. A professional courtesy. Not because they deserve it. Because you can. You email it, gather your tools, and leave. No wave, no explanation. Your mom sends a message later that night. "Thank you. I assume you're too busy to reply, but they said you fixed it." Everyone was impressed. You don't answer. Because that's not the point. Mainstream fact. The Bureau of Labor Statistics predicts that HVAC jobs will continue to grow for the next decade faster than most white-collar fields, especially as climate control becomes more complex and essential. Historians still argue whether this shift will finally earn tradesmen the respect they're owed, or whether the public will simply keep expecting miracles without understanding the work behind them. Want something quirky. In 1999, a British museum opened an exhibit titled The Invisible Workers, which showcased the unsung heroes of infrastructure plumbers, electricians, AC technicians. It was supposed to last a year. Due to popular demand, it ran for 5. You go to bed that night thinking about how no one thanked you at Thanksgiving. But here at least the air now moves. The space breathes, and no one can deny that. A few days pass. The texts from your sisters slow down, then stop altogether. Your mom doesn't call. Not that she ever really called, just left voicemails asking when you'd get a real job, or suggesting you date someone who reads. It's quiet now, quieter than it's ever been, and that's when it happens. You get a call from an unknown number in your service area. You answer, expecting another homeowner needing an emergency visit, but it's not that. It's the HOA president from your mom's neighborhood. "We were very impressed with your work," he says, in the overly polite tone of someone who just learned your name 5 minutes ago. "We'd like to hire you as our regular technician." You pause. "I don't usually take contracts for HOAs." He chuckles. "This one pays well. We've already discussed it with your mother." Of course they did. You decline. politely, firmly, and then you hang up. Because there's a difference between being needed and being used. You drive out to the hills for your next call, radio, low window cracked open to let in the morning air. The job is simple, a ductless unit installation for a young couple who just bought their first home. They make you coffee, ask questions, thank you like it matters. And as you mount the indoor unit, you realize you haven't thought about your niece's tuition in 3 days. That night, while sorting receipts in your garage, you hear a knock at the door. It's your niece. No warning, no text, just her standing there in that same Stanford hoodie hair, tied up face flushed from the cold. I wanted to talk, she says, in person. You step aside. She enters like she's unsure if she belongs, which in this moment is fair. She sits. You don't offer tea. You don't offer excuses. I didn't laugh at you, she says quietly. I laughed because I didn't know what else to do. Grandma was being awful. Everyone was. You nod, still silent. I found out you were paying for school, she continues. I asked Mom after I saw your name on the billing record. Of course she did. You forgot to scrub the last payment's reference line. Her eyes are glassy. Why didn't you tell me? Because it wasn't about credit, you say, your voice soft and even. It was about belief. She bites her lip, looks down at her hands. You're cutting me off, right? You don't answer. Okay, she says after a beat. I deserve that. Mainstream fact. In 2022, nearly half of college students relied on non-parent family members, uncles, aunts, grandparents for financial support. Quiet heroes, filling quiet gaps. Historians still argue whether modern higher education is a privilege or a burden disguised as an opportunity. Either way, it's a system that often hides who really makes it possible. Quirky tidbit. In medieval universities, it was common for students to pay their tutors in bread meat or manual labor, sometimes working in the tutor's home in exchange for instruction. Education used to be barter, not branding. You look at your niece and sigh. I didn't cut you off because of what you said. I cut you off because no one in that room stood up for me, not even you. She flinches, I know. Silence hangs between you like a swinging attic light. I'm not asking for the money back, she says, just a second chance to make it right. You think about it, you really do, but tonight you say nothing. Just walk her to the door. As she leaves, she turns back and whispers, I'll make you proud. With or without Stanford. You give her a small nod. For the first time in a long time, it feels like maybe, just maybe someone gets it. The following morning starts early. Winter's sharpening its teeth outside the kind of cold that settles into your bones before your coffee even has a chance to warm your hands. But you're already in your truck, thermos rattling in the cup holder work boots, laced tight, GPS cued for a commercial call-out. You've always found comfort in the repetition, pulling into job sites before most people finish brushing their teeth. Tools lined up, gloves on, solving problems with your hands while everyone else talks circles around them. Today's call is for a downtown bakery that's lost heat. The owner's panicked, said her dough isn't rising, the customers are freezing, and the staff's threatening mutiny over frostbitten fingers. You pull up to the back entrance, nod at the delivery guy, unloading flour, and get to work. It takes 3 hours. You rebuild a faulty igniter, replace a rusted relay, and clean out what might have been a squirrel's former Airbnb in the air vent. You finish with just enough time to accept a cinnamon roll as a thank you before heading back into traffic. And somewhere between 4th and Vine, it hits you. No one questioned your value today. No one made you explain why your job mattered. No one introduced you like an afterthought or placed you at a kiddie table next to someone who once ate glue. You earned respect not by demanding it, but by doing the thing. and doing it well. Your phone buzzes on the dashboard. This time, it's not your mom. It's Trevor. You stare at the name, then tap the speakerphone. Hey, man. His voice comes through too casual. Just wanted to say, I didn't mean to offend you the other night. You wait. I mean, we all joke, right? It's a family thing. No hard feelings. You finally speak. What's your HVAC backup plan for the new property your firm's developing? He stammers, I think the builder's handling that. They're not. I checked. The bids haven't gone out yet. You're late. Silence. You smile slightly. If you want to avoid a lawsuit over poor ventilation codes, you'll call someone who actually knows airflow regulations in that zoning region. Right. I mean, yeah, you end the call. No answer needed. Sometimes silence is the answer. Mainstream fact. Improper HVAC installation can reduce system efficiency by up to 30%, costing thousands in energy bills and violating safety codes. But most executives don't know that until it's too late. Historians still argue whether respect in professional spaces is earned through results or social currency. What's clear is that when systems fail, talkers call doers. Always have, always will. Want something strange? The very first patents for modern air conditioning were filed not for homes, but for textile factories. They weren't designed for comfort. They were designed for control. Think about that next time someone tells you your work isn't glamorous. Later that night, you check your bank app again. You scroll past the canceled college fund transaction. Your finger hovers. You could reinstate it. You could set it back up without a word. Instead, you set a monthly transfer to a local scholarship fund for trade school students. $1,000 a month. Same amount. New direction. Because belief is still worth investing in, just not blind loyalty. You don't text your niece. Don't send an update. If she asks, you'll tell her the truth. That the world needs more hands in motion, fewer mouths in suits, and some people need to find warmth the hard way. The next week is brisk both in weather and in business. You're booked solid residential maintenance commercial bids, even a call from the local school board about upgrading their outdated systems. Funny how the more they look past your title, the more they need your expertise. You stop by the parts supplier on Wednesday, and the guy behind the counter greets you like an old friend. Heard your name came up at the city council meeting, he says. They're looking for someone to consult on energy audits. Guess who they're recommending? You raise an eyebrow, not the banker's nephew. He laughs. Nope. The guy with the wrench and the receipts. You leave with more than just parts that day. You leave with proof. Validation, maybe. But not the kind that comes from applause. The kind that settles deep, like warm air, finally moving through a long blocked vent. Back at home, you walk past the still blinking voicemail light on your landline phone. You haven't checked it since Thanksgiving. Let it blink. It's earned the right to be ignored. That evening, you get another message, this time from your niece. Not a text, a video. You sit on the couch phone in hand thumb, hovering over play. You watch. She's standing in front of a classroom whiteboard. Some kind of intro to economic speech looks like. Her voice is shaky at first. I used to think success was about titles, she says. My family praised degrees and desk jobs. But someone I care about taught me that building comfort, real comfort, takes tools, not just talk. She doesn't say your name. She doesn't have to. She ends with, respect isn't something you wait for. It's something you give especially to the hands that build the systems you take for granted. The video ends. You sit there for a long time, phone on your lap, silence in the room, so thick you could insulate a duct with it. Mainstream fact. In most American homes, HVAC systems consume over 50% of the total energy used. That's right, half the comfort comes from a system most people never think about until it breaks. Historians still argue whether the trades will ever regain the status they held during the Craftsman Guild eras when skill equaled nobility. But momentum's shifting. People are noticing again. Quirky tidbit: Leonardo da Vinci once sketched a primitive air circulation device meant to cool large crowds in cathedrals. The guy painted the Mona Lisa, but he also worried about airflow. You close the video and look out the window. Across the street, your neighbor struggles with a ladder. You head out to help without thinking. Hold it steady. Guide the angle. Give advice without condescension. He says, "Wish I knew how to do what you do." You just nod. Takes time. As you head back inside, you feel it again, that steady hum in your chest, not of anger or pride, but clarity. You were never just anything. And for once, it seems like the world's finally starting to catch up. Days keep rolling by, and slowly, the cold starts giving way to something softer. Not quite spring yet, but the sting in the wind has dulled. In your line of work, that means fewer emergency heating calls and more clients looking ahead, checking AC units, upgrading thermostats, planning ahead for the heat. And you're booked out for weeks. On Thursday, you stop by a small apartment complex, one of your regulars. The manager, a gruff guy named Pete, meets you with a clipboard and a rare smile. Tenants been bragging about how cool their units stayed through that cold snap. You're kind of a legend around here. You chuckle checking the vents. Don't tell that to my mom. He laughs too loud for the narrow hallways. Man, if my mom ever learned how this stuff worked, she'd call me a wizard. You finish the inspection, leave a clean report, and load your tools back into the truck. As you buckle in, your phone buzzes. This time it's not your mom, not your sister, not even your niece. It's the college's financial office. Apparently they noticed the canceled tuition payments. They're checking if support will continue. You stare at the screen engine idling. Your finger doesn't move. Instead, you tap into your bank app and review the scholarship transfer again. You smile when you see it, one done, $1,000, already moved to a foundation you trust. A trade program you vetted yourself. Kids who want to work with their hands, not just talk with them. Later that night, you drive by your mom's neighborhood on your way home. The clubhouse lights are glowing. Inside, you catch a glimpse of her, laughing with her card friends, fanning herself with a glossy brochure, probably still bragging about the AC you fixed. You keep driving. No stops, no visits, just the soft sound of tires on pavement and the quiet understanding that you owe no one an explanation for what you've built. Mainstream fact: in 2023, skilled labor shortages in the U.S. cost businesses over $1 billion in delayed projects repairs and energy inefficiencies. There's never been a higher demand for hands like yours. Historians still argue whether society ever truly learned how to value service work or if it simply learned how to mask its dependence. Either way, when the systems fail, it's not the ones with degrees who show up in the snow. Quirky tidbit. In Japan, there's a phrase, shokunin spirit, that describes someone with pride and dedication to their craft, not just for the money, not for the recognition, but because doing something well matters, even if no one sees it. You pull into your driveway, the porch light flickering on like it always does. Inside, your tools wait. Your work boots rest by the door. Your dinner's still warm in the microwave. And for the first time in a long time, your chest feels full. In a way, no applause, no family gathering, no checkmark of approval ever could. You eat slowly, watch the news, laugh at a bad weather pun from the weatherman who still can't pronounce humidity. Then you pull out your notebook. And you write 3 words, not just anything. Then you close the notebook and turn out the light. Outside your window, the wind has quieted. The last of winter's breath lingers in the corners of the night, but the world feels still, settled, balanced. You sit quietly, letting the silence stretch across the room like a warm blanket. No buzzing phones, no inbox to clear, no need to prove anything to anyone. You think about the years behind you, the hours spent in attics, on rooftops, beneath homes, with crawl spaces barely high enough to breathe in, all the jobs that never made it into Thanksgiving toasts, the work done when no one else was willing. And somehow it's enough, because comfort doesn't come from applause. It comes from warmth where there once was cold, from air that moves systems that breathe, homes that live again, because you knew what to do when no one else could. You feel it in your fingertips, the echo of your tools, in your spine the memory of weight carried and released, and in your heart a calm that says you've done enough. The world will always have people who talk over you, sit you at the kids' table, laugh when they don't understand. But the people who matter, the ones who feel that first gust of cool air or heat on a frozen morning, they'll remember. And maybe, just maybe, the next time someone says, just an AC tech, it'll be with a little more reverence. The night deepens. You breathe. Slow, even. And in the quiet, something inside you says, you were never just anything. You were everything someone needed. And that's more than enough. Thank you for listening to the story.